right, everybody. Hello. Welcome to the presentation. Thank you so much for being here. Howdy. Welcome. Welcome, everybody. Come on in. So now we're live on all of our formats. I appreciate you taking this. Happy Friday. Again, it's right here. It's Friday now. I tell you, it just seemed like, this is more the Friday backdrop. I usually have when we're talking about something that's paranormal, supernatural related. It's more fun. It's more tongue-in-cheek kind of a thing. And sometimes there are some serious, topics we discuss tonight. But today is not so much a tongue-in-cheek conversation. Today is something that I think, especially now, is very relevant, and we're going to have to deal with this now. TikTok, I'm letting you know right now, if you cannot behave, if the trolling is going to occur, I'm going to put sub chat on it, and that'll be it. And I won't give it a second thought. So I've done this all the time. I always try to give TikTok. I always give TikTok that opportunity. But that's the only time I'm going to mention that. So anyway, happy Friday to you, everybody. And hopefully you have had a great, great Friday. This week has flown by. It has flown by. And already, here we are. I mean, it's Friday, and good grief. It's crazy. Now, folks, if you want to go to my website, you can certainly do so. If you're bored and have nothing else better to do, you can go to, probably you're right, bishopjameslong.com, bishopjameslong, Long.com, bishopjameslong.com. You can go there. There are books, and you can purchase those books. I'm going to do a video because I'm going to show where, in fact, the percentage of the books goes to. It's my book. They're mine. I wrote them. They belong to me. I have every right to do whatever I want to do with the profits of the book because I wrote them. They're mine. But we're giving them to the MKS Kids Foundation. And unfortunately, I even have to show a video of that. But nonetheless, we're going to be doing that. And you can head on over yonder and purchase those, and that would be fantastic. And you can also, by the way, don't forget, go to bishopjameslong.com and click on the fundraiser link. So our friends, the MKS Kids Foundation, there is one of the children. She has a tumor on the side of her face, and she's in a lot of pain. So we're trying to raise funds to help her so that they can get that surgery done. They are in Uganda. They are a registered 501. And anybody can contact them. Abraham showed us the 501, the nonprofit status. You can go and you can help them out if you want, because they have to fly in a specialist because they're in Uganda. And good, Corinne. Yeah, so they a 501c, it's a nonprofit status. So they're a registered nonprofit in Uganda, and they're an orphanage. Basically, the director is a young man that we've had. He'll be on, by the way, tonight. He's the one who started the MKS Kids Foundation. He was, at 3 years old, he was orphaned. And he lived on the streets. And he took that pain and that suffering, and he turned it around, and he started this orphanage. I mean, and we're the only sponsors. They have no other sponsors. We're it. We are it. I mean, we're keeping them afloat. And we're a small community. We can only do so much, but we're doing the best we can. So we've raised $1,000 for them already. They need $1,500 to start the process, and then they can start getting the surgery. You can go on their website or on their TikTok, and you can see it's poor thing. It's terror. I hate it. I hate seeing it. But if you want to help, you certainly you're going to. We're not going to go with. We're not doing this. People are going to hell stuff. That's not up to me to decide. I'm not God. But if you want to go to the church's site, you can certainly do so. usocc.org. That's the church's website. So if you want to head over there, you certainly are welcome to. And we can do that. All right. Tonight we have a very, very interesting presentation. Yeah, she does. She looks like she really is in a lot of pain. But we're gonna push forward, help her out. All right. So again, if you want to help out, you can go directly to their profile. or you can go to bishopjameslong.com, click on the fundraiser link, and you can scroll down, and it takes you to their fundraising. And you can donate directly to them. There's no place for you to donate to me. I don't want it. I don't need it. I'm not asking for it. Never have asked for it. I've been online for 25 years. I've never once asked for money for myself. Never once. I've never one time asked for 1 penny from anybody. But I will ask for a small child that has a tumor on her face. Yeah, I'll ask for that. I think all of us, no matter what your faith is, no matter what it is, we should all, we can all rally behind that at least. All right, tonight we have a very, very interesting presentation on. I don't know if you've seen The Love Has Won, and that's right. If financially, there's a lot of people. I get it. Totally understand that. We all have bills. We're all stressed out. I understand. Keep her in the prayers. Keep her in the prayers. That's very important. And we can all do that. Doesn't cost us anything but your time, and your time is more precious than anything, because once you give it away, you can't ever give it back. So, our guest tonight. Well, thanks. I have to keep this on because we are having some possibility of tornadoes. So I've got to make sure I kind of keep an eye or an ear out just in case they say a tornado is in Louisville. I'm like, oh, that's a problem. That's a whoops. So I'm going to have to, keep that. Where'd I go for cover? Oh, there's plenty of places. Yeah, we got basements and all that stuff. So church is right down the street. All right. Our guest tonight, we're going to talk to Andrew. Andrew, he's an author, speaker. He's a survivor of the Love Has Won movement. He was publicly known as Father God, alongside Amy Carlson, who was called Mother God. Now, his story was widely known. If you've not seen it, I encourage you, after this presentation, go watch it on HBO's Love Has Won. It was really the cult of Mother God. And since leaving the group, Andrew Ryan has spoken about the spiritual manipulation, psychological control, emotional damage that he experienced inside this movement. In 2025, he published The War on Love, the origin story of Love Has Won and the rise of Mother God. It's a 434-page memoir described as an insider account of Love Has Won and his role beside Amy Carlson. Hello, everybody. I promise you guys, if you've not seen it, watch it, and it will blow your mind. So let's bring on our guest. Hello, Andrew. How are you?
Hello, I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here and talk with you guys. Hello, everybody.
We had you on. Gosh, when was that? It's a couple of years ago, I think.
Time is flying. Yeah.
And I definitely wanted you back on, especially when you have your book, and so I'm telling you guys, this is really fascinating. It's called Love Has Won. Love Has Won. So before we really get into the Love Has Won, tell us a little bit about who you are. Maybe if you can kind of your upbringing, just that, and then we'll get into the other questions.
Sure, happy to. My name is Andrew. I was raised in New Jersey. One of two boys. My dad raised us as a single father. My mom was around a little bit, but we grew up in Freehold, New Jersey. Had a pretty typical upbringing. When I was a young teenager, started to have some turbulence. Dad had come out actually as gay, and that caused me to make some rough decisions about my childhood, and lost interest in school, and started down a little bit of a rough path. At 18, I was in a really tough situation with a violent, deadly car accident that took the life of my best friend. And unfortunately, he didn't make it, but I got a second chance and kind of opened me up to this story that we'll end up getting into spirituality and asking those big existential questions about God, about life itself, about death even. And wow. I spent my mid-20s working, putting a life together. Everything was going great for a long time. I was living on the beach in Asbury Park, And then things started to get weird for a little bit there with me, and I eventually ended up seeking out this group.
Now, wait, let's stop that. What do you mean?
For answers.
Oh, hold on. When you say in your life, emotionally, spiritually, when you say things were starting to get weird, what before this, what happened? If you don't mind asking.
No, not at all. You know, I hate to say I can tell you exactly what it was, but I can tell you what happened. You know, one of the stories is, you know, I had this weird feeling. I was on the beach every night with my dog. I had this weird feeling, and I started bringing a camcorder to the beach every single night because I just thought I was going to see something really strange. And, you know, after months of bringing it and lugging my stuff and my dog, nothing. And then one night I lose my phone in the sand. I had to look till like 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. I was wrecked, had to work the next day. So the next night I say, nope, we're not bringing that stuff. We go to the beach. Sure enough, I look up over the convention hall, and the first thing I thought was Glenda the Witch from Wizard of Oz, because there is this blue shining orb that was floating slowly, silently, straight at me. It went over my head. I watched it, for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It wasn't like I rubbed my eyes and it was gone. And it was just so strange and really weird how it kind of happened that way. And that was the first of like a slide into really strange place over the next 7 to 10 days.
What do you think that orb was? I mean, do you think it was just,
gosh, you know, at first it filled me with fear because I didn't know.
Yeah.
And then as it floated over my head, I'm like, you know, you have to look at this, because I looked down at my feet and I was too afraid to look at it. And something said, you just have to look. You have to see if you can figure out what this is. So I looked up at it as it went over my head, and it looked like an unpolished metal, just glowing blue. It had no marks or anything on it that I could see. And I have no idea what it was, Bishop Long. For a while, I thought it was aliens, maybe some high government technology we didn't know about. It made no sound, no deviation in course. It floated straight north up the beach in Asbury Park and disappeared in the distance till I couldn't see it anymore.
Was it large? What would you say the dimensions?
No, about the size of a basketball. It was about 20, 30 feet over my head.
Okay, so this was not, well, and people are going to ask, so please understand. I mean, first of all, was it at nighttime, and could it possibly have been maybe a balloon?
It was at nighttime, and no, this was no balloon.
Okay.
There was no balloon.
So were you already interested in maybe a spiritual awakening, new age beliefs, or, alternative spirituality before Love Has Won?
I was, it's a good question. I was getting there. I wasn't there yet, but I was getting there. I had started to become obsessed, almost, you could say, with the conspiracy theories. And I think that's something that opens a lot of people who are like ex-cult members or have joined. I think you'll find they share that same interest with the conspiracy theories. And it started to open me up. But after, digging into them for, at least 6 to 8 months, you start to realize that, you learn about so many of them and there's nothing you can do. It's kind of like empty knowledge. It really gets you going, and it can feel really intense, like something, and
wow.
Your mind is running, but it means nothing.
And what were you searching for at the time in your life and we're gonna get into the Love Has Won cult, but what we're trying to figure out now is, before that, what was there something you were searching, maybe meaning for life, spirituality? What were you searching for, would you say?
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. I had a lot of those questions about the nature of life. Why am I still here? I lived through something that I shouldn't have. I've had a rough go at it, at least up to that point. And I was looking for something that mattered. I had a great job, but I felt totally unfulfilled. There was something missing from my life, and I wanted answers.
A lot of people, let me tell you, a lot of people right now, and hello there from UK. I appreciate you guys being here. We're going to talk about that cult next week. But I tell you what, a lot of people right now are feeling the meaning of life. It's just, isn't it crazy? We're so connected on when it comes to internet, but yet I've never seen loneliness and such disconnection in all of my life as I've seen now, because people just want to belong to a group of people that are just kind and courteous and respectful and loving.
It's a wonderful thing, especially the last few that you mentioned. I think with a lot of people with these groups, you find people looking for belonging, purpose, maybe that special feeling
Mm.
or just curiosity itself. And for me, even after getting into spirituality, after the conspiracy stuff, that those feelings weren't enough for me to join the cult. It wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to push me over the top to leave my life behind and go join these people.
Okay.
But once I had that orb experience, I then 2 nights later, I found some guy who could, quote, answer these questions, talk to your guide. So, of course, I paid the money to see him because all suddenly I'm raging with questions. And I did something with him. And it wasn't a great session, but he told me about some meditation to do, and I did it. Next thing I know, I had a vision. And then I had, right after the vision, like 30 seconds, I had an audible somebody say something to me. And I had never had that experience before. And then it was like I was on a roller coaster from then on for the next week to 10 days, like I said. And then before I knew it, I was walking through the front door of that group.
Well,
I had no idea.
So before you found Love Has Won, you're describing, it seems like you were in a vulnerable moment in your life.
Oh, no doubt about it. So, I think you have to be.
All right. So you met this guy. He talked to you. You had this audible. Did it feel dangerous at first? Did it feel loving and meaningful? So let's talk about this. We'll wait for Amy in just a second. Let's just talk about the group itself. So you walked in. First of all, how did you get to the group? When did you make the decision? And talk to us about what it was like when you walked in the front door.
Yeah, great question. So I hadn't made the decision, but I had lost my job, and I was on unemployment. So now I had money coming in and I had time to do whatever I wanted. So I put my dog in the car and we started driving west. I had family in Tennessee where I live now, and we were going to go visit them. And, maybe I was going to wander for a few weeks across the country. I don't know. Maybe I was going to go see these people. But then suddenly I started having dreams of this girl, Amy. And I hardly knew her every night for 4 or 5 nights in a row. And before I knew it, I told her, and she said, "Oh, that means you're supposed to come. You have to come right now. I'll send you the money. You can't even drive here. You have to get on a plane right now. There's something happening and you're really important to it. We need you here immediately." And then, from that point on, I don't know what it was. I just took it hook, line, and sinker, and I just went. There was no looking back.
Now, was that a rental car? Did you just sell the car? Was that your car?
No, it was my car. It was the craziest thing. I had my dog with me. I told my mom I'd be back in a few days because I believed it. And then once I got there, they were like, "No, we don't have the money to give you to go back and then to come and drive back again."
So what happened to the car?
I left my car in the parking lot at the airport, and it ended up getting impounded. They came. I had a car note on it, so they came and found the vehicle and picked it up.
Okay, so all right, now you're walking in the front door, and you walked away from your car. Is your dog with you? Did you leave your dog at your mom? Or is your dog with you?
No, my dog isn't with me at this point.
No. When you went to the Love Has Won cult.
No.
So
that's what I'm saying. I left him behind.
You left everything behind, everything, including your dog, everything.
Everything.
And so you walked away from this. You're at a vulnerable state, spiritually, emotionally. You were searching. You had that experience on the beach with this basketball sphere, and you were dreaming about this Amy Carlson. When you walked into the door of the Love, and where was this? What state?
This was Crestone, Colorado.
You walked into. Describe the house. Was the house a nice house? Was it run down? Was it? When you did, in other words, did you walk in hearing banjo music and thinking, "I'm going to turn right back around"?
The angels and the harps were going light everywhere. No, I wish. I walked in the door, and the first thought I had was, "Oh, I made a terrible mistake." I got 2 feet in the door. I look left, and the sink is piled up with dishes. There are dishes on the counter. I look forward, and the table that they had worked at, it's 5:30 in the morning. I didn't know this. They had been awake for 36 hours on a mushroom trip, and she was a heavy drinker, and there was dust, there was clothes thrown everywhere. The place was a wreck. It was not a spiritually clean space. Now, and I thought to myself, this isn't good.
And keep in mind, everybody, so the Love Has Won cult, they were very, very active online. I mean, really pushing on you on Tube to the U. I mean, they were really pushing Mother God, Mother God. So now you're in this place. You're thinking, what have I done? Now you're here. You've sacrificed everything. What was your first personal interaction with Amy Carlson, who claimed to be Mother God? What was your first impression?
Oh my goodness. So it's 5:30, right? And I'm walking in the house. I don't know what to do. Her back is turned towards me. She's kind of hunched over in the chair with this guy who she claimed was Archangel Michael incarnate, right? She said this guy was Archangel Michael. His name was Miguel, and he was holding her shoulders. And I didn't understand why. And as I got in front of her to the chair in front of her, I realized she was in like almost a catatonic state. She was drooling out of her mouth. She couldn't talk. She couldn't make full sentences. She couldn't speak. She was somewhere else entirely. And she tried to say hello, and kind of this muffled kind of hum just came out. And I was so scared because that was not the person I thought I was meeting. People can easily be whoever they want when they know the camera's on. And then, right from the start, it was like, cameras are off now. Here you go.
So you walk into this place, this woman who claims to be Mother God, and these people thinking that she is, and you walked into this place. Were the people around her, was it a normal kind of just walking around doing their thing? Or how would you describe the atmosphere besides seeing Mother God completely out of her mind?
Yeah, good question. So a few of the team, there were about 7 people, I think, in total once I arrived. Half of them were sleeping already. It was 5:30 in the morning. They'd been awake a while. And then a couple of them were awake, and everybody, within 15 minutes, everybody went to sleep. Michael picked her up after I said hello and kind of like ushered her into her bedroom, and she was out. He went up to sleep, and there was somebody sleeping on the couch there. So I was actually sitting alone by myself, watching the sunrise off the mountains in the back, just looking out the glass back room door, thinking to myself about the decisions I had just made.
So everybody, for those of you just tuning in, we're talking to our friend Andrew Ryan, who was known as Father God in the Love Has Won cult. The HBO did a documentary on this. I strongly encourage you to watch it. Amy Carlson was running around claiming to be Mother God. Let me ask you, what was it about Amy that made people believe that she was more than just an ordinary person? I mean, was she charismatic? To me, when someone run around and say, well, I'm Mother God, I'm like, yeah, sure you are. And I'm Santa Claus. I mean, why buy that?
It's a great question, and it's really relevant. I think when people come from conspiracy world into spirituality, they are wide open to believe anything. It's like, you knock down your old worldview, and now you need to build a new one. And she's waiting there for you with a good story that she's told a million times so often, and it's so well defended that she knows all of the best responses. She knows she's set it up. She's got this whole belief system she's created off the pillars of spirituality, quote unquote. And then, she just adds her own texture to it. And, she had all of the makings of a really charismatic person who could have done a lot of good for the world, except that she started to make it about her. And that was where things went terribly wrong.
And we'll get to your questions later on, guys. But let me ask you this. I know you can only answer so much, but do you think she was truly convinced that she was Mother God, or do you think that was just kind of like a tagline she used to get notice on social media?
Yeah, she was a true believer, Bishop Long. I was with her for almost a year, and I never once caught even a slip of the tongue that made me think. And I grew very, very close to her. We were in a relationship for the entire time. I never once saw her give me any idea that she didn't totally believe, or that she was who she claimed to be.
Okay, so
not one.
But how? All right. Most, and again, we're learning. I think I've studied cults for 25 years. When I was in the seminary, and one thing that I studied was I wanted to why the psychology of it. I could never ever understand why anybody, first of all, would hurt another person or control another person. That to me is that's evil. That's demonic. But in my opinion, how did she explain who she believed she was? And even if she was charismatic, you can have the most charismatic preacher in the world. I think a lot of people struggle with the idea of, well, okay, fine, you're charismatic, great. That doesn't mean you're God. How did she explain that to where people are saying, well, I'll sign that check?
It's a really good, important question. It's a big question too. Essentially, what it came down to, as far as the way she created the belief system and the structure of it, it all came down to the ego. And her claim was that she had, through life and through her spirituality, through her growth and the things she's been through, she had dissolved or destroyed all of her ego, which made her Mother God, in the sense that she was always supposed to be this person. Like that was who she was born to be. But through destroying her ego, she didn't have one anymore. And now she could be Mother God. And she clearly had an ego. I mean, she had a drinking problem. And I would bring all of this stuff up to her. And even though I say she totally believed she was this person, I mean, there were many, many times every single day where I would spend so much time just, talking with her and asking her, well, how could you be Mother God and no ego if you have the drinking problem, or this, you're angry all the time, you're sad, I don't understand. And she was so good at defending all these positions, because she's been forced to do it so much just by making the claim, that she just got really good at coming up with explanations. And though I didn't believe her, and a lot of people didn't believe her, it was just good enough to keep some people hooked.
So let me ask you then, now, so she claimed, and guys, stick around. This, you have heard nothing yet. So she claimed to be Mother God. So in essence, was she claiming to be God himself?
Yeah, she thought she was the Alpha and the Omega. Wow. She thought God was a woman, and she was the one. There was no other. You couldn't get her off of that mountain. That was a hill she was going to die on, and unfortunately, she did.
Yep. And we'll get there. We'll get there because that's the moment. It's like, well, if you've not seen the documentary, guys. So, all right. So there were no moments where she appeared conflicted, afraid, unsure, and she absolutely was convinced. So then, here's the $1 million question: how did you become Father God in this group, and can you tell us what was that all about?
Yeah, so Father God was, it was a title that she gave to the guy who had her affections, and there were, I would think I was the fourth or the fifth, but by the time that she passed, there were at least a dozen by my count. But that said, her idea of what the Father God person was supposed to be, or was essentially, the other half to who Mother God was. It was like, her twin soul is the way she would explain it, even though she was really in charge, because naturally somebody like her, that's what she wants. She was an egomaniac, for lack of better words, but she, it was really just the next person she was interested in, got the title. I don't think I ever was Father God, obviously. That was all just made up nonsense, but the way you got the title was by being the guy who was standing next to her. So and that was really it.
But in the group then, I mean, what did the title Father God actually mean inside Love is One? Because if she's calling herself Mother God, and then the partner that she has is Father God, is she in essence in saying she is the feminine part of God, and that you would be the masculine part of God? Is that how I don't explain that
right
to us.
She's going, I apologize, she's going with the dualistic angle on it at that point, where she is the feminine, you are the masculine, coming together and creating, that one over soul, as she would explain it.
So you walked into this house, you had these people everywhere, she's drooling completely out of it, then you become Father God in this group. How fast did that actually progress?
Yeah, so I mean, when I showed up, I didn't know. I thought I was just going to be somebody who helped, us spread the message of love, light, getting rid of your ego, doing good things for the world. And then 2 days later, she said she had to talk to me. She sits me down on her bed and tells me all about how I'm supposed to be this father God to her mother God. And I was blown away. I had no idea what she was talking about. I was totally not worthy. I was not comfortable, never was. And it was really tough for me. And she just kind of dropped it on me within a couple minutes and then kind of left the room for me to just, take it in. She gets at the door, turns around, and says, "Oh, when you're ready to make love, let me know," and shuts the door behind her. And I thought to myself, oh my God, what is happening to my life? It was so scary.
That's for the moderators. If you can do me a favor on TikTok, just kind of repeatedly remind people what we're talking about, because we have people coming into the chat who are new. Again, folks, let me make this very clear. I am not endorsing Love is One. Obviously, what I'm doing is showcasing it here on the show, so that people can know about this particular cult, and that you get to speak to Andrew, who was a part of that and escaped this cult, because I think it's important. I think it's very, very important, because there's a lot of craziness in this world right now, a lot of hate, a lot of judgment, a lot of condemnation, cults that occur. There's an issue in UK right now that's really problematic, and we'll talk about that maybe sometime soon. But it just seems like people are searching for something and a belonging, a community, and then they get caught up in this. So did you believe in the title Father God when she says, "Okay, you're Father God now"?
I mean, no. No. The answer is no. But it was such a strange place to be, because I was pulled in a few directions. I joined, having these weird things happen to me, and I felt like I was guided there after having the dreams with her. And then I get there, and now I'm thinking to myself, well, why would I be guided to a place like this? And I'm trying to answer that question because it didn't make sense. And then she's telling me this, and I'm like, no, this is way too much. So I just went into this, and I never really came out for a good 6 months of this place of being in absolute chaos and turmoil, emotionally, physically, spiritually. Yeah.
So you have this sphere on the beach. You see this sphere that, and now you're having dreams of her, and she's telling you, she's communicating with you, whatever it is, you got to get out here right away. And now you're thinking, is this the sign? Is this a spiritual sign that I'm looking for? Where do you think these dreams came from? Where do you think that originated?
I really don't know. And, these are questions that I'd have for who can answer them, right? I mean, it's the wildest thing. The two experiences I didn't get into, the meditation I was told to do by that quote unquote psychic, I did it. And he said, look into a flame and put your biggest life questions down on a notebook and then think of them. I shut my eyes, and my first question was, why am I interested in spirituality? What does it all mean? And I closed my eyes, Bishop, and I am looking at a pregnant woman. I've never had this happen to me before or after, just once after, actually. A pregnant woman in a hospital gown, sitting in a wheelchair, and then the words popped into my head that said, "This is the pre-birth process. Do you understand?" And it freaked me out. I opened my eyes. I'm looking around, and then I hear, Andrew, can you hear me?" And there was nobody there. It was a woman's voice. And then I had the dreams of Amy. And I didn't know what to think, but I felt like I was guided to join. And when I did, I got there and I thought to myself, somebody is messing with me. That's what it felt like.
And had you spoken to Amy prior to having these dreams? Do you think that perhaps maybe you were attracted to her? I mean, she was an attractive woman. So did you think that perhaps maybe
I looked up to her. But I wasn't attracted to her. Like, when she made, that overture to me, I was, for lack of better words, I was repulsed. I mean, it wasn't what I was looking for. So, that wasn't, I looked up to her. I thought she was much more spiritually astute than I was. She was much more learned in that regard. And I thought I had a lot to learn from her. But I wasn't attracted to her in that sense. But to have dreams like, 1 or 2 nights is one thing, but after it got to like 4 or 5 nights, it was so strange that I didn't really know her. And I didn't even want to tell her. That's why I waited till it was like 4 or 5 nights before I said anything, because it was just too much to keep to myself. And that's when I got to know her, and I knew she was lying when she said this to me. But that's why she said, "Oh, I've been having dreams of you too. That means you're supposed to come here right away."
Now, folks, for those of you who don't, we're going to get into the book. Andrew has written a book. And I strongly encourage you guys, if you are interested in his story and this whole entire cult, you've got to get his book. The book is called The War on Love. And that's what it looks like, everybody, right there. The War on Love. I know this is just the best way, fastest way for me to do it, just to put it up to the screen so everybody can see it. The War on Love. Make sure you guys purchase this book, and we're going to talk to him more about this book. I strongly encourage you to make sure you pick this up. Andrew Ryan, is it Profauci?
Profauci, yep.
P-R-O-F-A-C-I. I know it's here. Let me do a screen because I'll do a video on this later. So there we go. That's it right there, everybody. For those of you on TikTok, I have to do the screen mirroring. So Andrew Ryan, Profauci, and The War on Love. So you got to make sure it is really fascinating. And all right, did the title give you any type of influence? So yeah, your father got in this group. Did the title give you any influence at all, or did it actually trap you inside the system?
Oh, both. Definitely both. The other members got in line right away. Like I was suddenly lifted up. I thought I'd be some guy with the computer helping with the websites. Next thing I know, she wants me to sleep in her bed with her every night. And, they start calling me FG or Father God. I had just gotten there. I was like there for 4 days. And I didn't know anything. I'd been into spirituality for a couple of months. I wasn't even a good Catholic before then. I didn't know anything. And they were calling me this name, and it created so much turmoil. And I wanted to, I told myself that she knew so much more than me that I needed to let go of my definitions of what I thought reality was. And maybe I should put my faith in her and try to follow along and at least see where because I already joined, right? So I'm in for a penny, in for a pound at this point. Right. So I tried, but for a few weeks I gave it my earnest, and then the more as time went on, it became clearer and clearer as I started watching events unfold that this was delusion at best and really, really dangerous at worst.
Yep, and you can get this actually on Etsy for $56 for someone who's asking. All right, so let me ask you this. What did a normal day inside Love Has Won look like? What did that look like?
Yeah, so it looked like people sitting around a table, who were all working on a website, or our website was like a news service. We would post articles daily, so we would run that. We'd be sharing it to different groups on Facebook. Socially speaking, it was very, very tight. As far as the belief system goes, Amy had expectations on your behavior, on how you talked, on the way you saw things. So if you even said the word like "I think something," she'd say, "Oh, you're in your ego," because the mind thinks and the heart feels. So you're trying to like not even say the wrong thing because she will cut you in half for all these weird reasons that you don't even understand. So you're trying to get along with the belief system and align yourself to stay out of her crosshairs because she had like really rough energy when she put a target on you. She was really good at cutting somebody down and making them feel like nothing. And this was really powerful for her to keep people in line, and it made you just kind of want to do whatever she said just to keep the peace. And I found myself caught in this place where the belief system that she gave me and my sense of reality, objective fact and truth were clashing hard, and it was becoming a problem, and eventually it would blow up.
So let me ask you, that's a good question. We'll ask that in a moment. What were the rules, spoken, unspoken? And then if they broke the rules, how were they corrected or punished?
Yeah, great question. So this is 2014 to 2015. And at this point, she had been doing this for about 2.5 years. She didn't have many rules, but there were a few. And you had to be at the table, engaged in the teamwork, at all times. If you weren't there doing that job, then you didn't need to be there at all. You know, she would tell you they're putting, you know, food on your plate. They're giving you housing. So don't come here. And like, I took a walk my third day there. I went and walked in the mountains in the trail because it was beautiful. I wanted to get to know my area. When I got back, I got snapped in half. And I was told that I needed to be at my seat in love, as she would say it. She was love, the embodiment of it. I needed to be serving her in all moments. And I mean, she went on. You don't get out of line more than once before you start thinking to yourself of all the ways that you can make sure you never get yelled at ever again.
So besides the tongue lashing, I understand that there were, tell me this, there was a video on the Love Has Won, the documentary. There was a time where she punished a child because it was crying, or a cat or something of this nature, a cat or a dog. I forgot what it was. Thought it was a child. Do you know much about that?
Yeah, I know all about it.
Okay.
So what happened was, over time, these rules got worse and worse. From 2015, this child thing happened in like 2019, 2020, I believe. Things got worse as she got worse. The group tightened up a lot, especially after me. And with this child, yeah, they locked him in a closet because of just excessive crying, and put him in the closet to try to teach him. And I know this came straight from Amy. She had these ideas. When she just had an idea, she believed that, you know, it was like, you know, a commandment from God. That's what she believed. So putting the child in the closet was the right move because she said it was. And no matter what you said in response, she was intelligent enough to formulate at least a logical response to you that would make sense. And she'd cut you in half. And it was just on the other people to fall in line or leave. And that's kind of where the team was at. So they would just fall in line.
How old was this child?
This child was, I think 7 years old, 8 years old. And I didn't know the child, but I know it was traumatic for them.
I mean, what phrases, what beliefs were repeated so often that they were really they became impossible to question, besides her claiming to be God?
Yeah. Well, it was the fact that, you know, she had an ego. You didn't say that. You didn't go there. You know, you didn't even call her Amy. That was like one of the worst insults that you could bring up. Her name was God, Mother God. You called her that, nothing else. Because if you didn't, it was proof that you didn't believe and there was something wrong with you. You know, you didn't ask questions about her personally. That was off limits. And, you know, the rules, to go back to that, I mean, after a while, there was like, you know, 4 hours of sleep tops.
Wow.
Food got cut to a minimum. And like everything just tightened up around everybody as far as dissent wasn't allowed. And you couldn't even get time around her after a while.
Wow. So, okay. Now, I know they did a lot of live streaming, a lot. And especially on tube to the U, because we can't say these, you know, TikTok. But so how did the money, the donations, products they were selling, online followers affect the group? How I mean, obviously the live streaming was absolutely crucial for them, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely. Every day she would spend, you know, 6 hours on the phone doing what she called these spiritual healing sessions. She would do what she called etheric brain surgeries, and from her chat room every night. And, you know, she would, you know, tell people that she was doing this thing, and she would close her eyes on camera and, you know, put her hands together in prayer. And she would tell you that she's working with her angels and her guides. And she would rattle off names like Saint Germain or Cryon. And, you know, they're removing implants or, you know, cancerous tumors that you have, but you didn't know about. Thank God for Mother God to remove them. And now you can go to the doctor to make sure you're clear. And she would make money this way by getting donations from these people. And by the time that I left, I think the group was averaging somewhere between $10,000 to $12,000 a month.
$10,000 to $12,000 a month?
A month. It was, yeah, the more money she made, the more money mattered to her. And she was getting donations from people for $7,000. We saw one once, you know, somebody gave up their entire life savings and sold their home to have the bank come up with all the money in cash, gave her $420,000 I mean, people were doing the craziest things and just throwing money at her. It was actually pretty horrible to witness.
That really does. I've got to ask this question because to me, that's why I have a rule. When I work with anyone, we never charge. I won't work with anybody who charges. I don't charge. I refuse to work with anyone who does. They investigate a home or whatever it might be. And these surgeries on the phone, that would be like me performing an exorcism on camera. It can't be done. And for 25 years, I've been very outspoken about that. It's not possible. It's simply not possible. Never have done that, nor would I ever. So someone is saying they're going to perform this surgery on brain surgery on by phone, and people believe this.
Yeah, imagine, Bishop, if you told somebody the extent to which the exorcism will work on you will be equal to the amount of money that you give me.
Well, that's prosperity gospel. That's prosperity gospel right there, where preachers say the more money you put in collection, the more God's going to bless you. That's heresy.
Yeah, it was. After a while, it just became disgusting. I would say at first you didn't understand, and it took a while to figure it out. But after a while, it became a problem for me. I couldn't stand by and watch it anymore.
Now, how long were you with this group?
So I was there 9 months.
All right,
and I left, and then she followed me across the country.
Hold on. We'll get there. But so you were there for 9 months. Were you able to speak to your family, or was that not allowed?
Sure. So she didn't take your ability away, right? So she wasn't overpowering anybody, but she would just make it not worth it for you. So she would tell you that, contacting your family was your ego because you were living in the past and you weren't letting go. You weren't staying present in the moment. But she also knew that your family did not want you there. They wanted you to come home, and that they were always bringing this kind of conversation up. Even if you called to say hello, how you doing, eventually you'd be talking about, when are you coming home? And she knew that. So she just made it as unpleasant as possible for anybody to get out of line and contact your family, because it just, it was more proof that you weren't attuned with the belief system, and more proof that you were in your ego and not following God. So,
in a lot of cults that we see many times, these terrible leaders, they take away people's identity. I mean, their sense of identity, that should be celebrated. Their identity, their uniqueness. In this case, did you see anyone's identity being basically chopped apart, and she tells you this is who you are now?
Yeah, that was I'm glad you asked it this way, because she gave you your identity, and you didn't have the identity without her and without the group. That's why everybody's name got changed. That's why Miguel became Archangel Michael. I became Father God. And then, once I got downgraded, it was Archangel Lucifer. It was the wildest thing. And, everybody that joined, she would tell you, oh, you're this angel incarnated, or you're this deity incarnated. And if you left, obviously you weren't that anymore, because you're not serving love. You're not serving God. So how could you be that? Because you're in your ego. Now you're actually demonic. Once you leave, everybody becomes a demon.
I mean, it sounds like she's the one that was. It sounds like she's the one that was demonically influenced.
Yeah, Bishop, I think so. I don't have these answers, and it's actually something I wanted to ask you about, what you thought, because this is something that I wonder about what's the potential. What happens when a bunch of people get together in a belief system like this, sharing those same kind of ideas? What's the potential for them to manifest that kind of thing? And I think that's exactly what she did.
No, with no question. I mean, I think this is 100. We see this in every time, whether it be Andrew Koresh, whether it be Jim Jones, whether it would be Amy Carlson, even Manson. All these people, they're very charismatic, but they try to break people's identity down and build them up with the identity that they give them. Say, this is who you are from now on. And it becomes really a monarchy. I mean, that person has complete and total control of what you eat, what you'd say, everything. I mean, they could sleep, they control everything. And that's incredibly dangerous, very dangerous when you get into that type of atmosphere, because that's evil. First of all, it's evil. Secondly, you should celebrate people's uniqueness. You should never control anybody, ever. And everything that she did, in my opinion, and I do believe there was some mental health issues. I also think that there was demonic influence because these type of people, look at a particular, we can't say it on TikTok, but look at a particular world leader in Germany in World War II, unbelievably charismatic, and how they were able to create this so much hatred. And you see that time and time and time again in history because people are trying to find a belonging, and the demonic knows how to use this. The demonic knows how. That's why your faith in God, in true God, needs to be solid. Let me ask you, what happened when did anybody have any doubts in the house that you know of when you were living there? Did anybody express privately, maybe this isn't,
Yeah. There was a lot of that. So everybody, it was like a revolving door in the sense that everybody was like on a timer, right? Because eventually you would figure everything out, and you would either acquiesce completely and give up, at which point you're lost. I mean, you're gone, and that's what happened to most of the people who were there at the end. Or you would pack your stuff up and you would try to go home. Now, most of these people, she forced them to give everything up, give up their money, give up, their connection to family. So they didn't actually have anything to go back to. So you'd get stuck there. And that became one of the most dangerous aspects of it in general.
So let me ask you this question, because I have a feeling, maybe I'm wrong, but I have a feeling the answer is yes. This is the type of person, Amy Carlson, when you look at her profile, this is the type of person that say, when someone betrayed her, well, Judas betrayed me too, now claiming to be Christ. Did she ever use that line with anybody?
That was it. I mean, yeah, that was the line. I mean, if you're speaking against her, you're speaking against God, right? Yeah. And that was the end of every conversation, every time.
Wow.
Because nobody really fought with her that much because she was very good. She was very intelligent. Unfortunately, she was using it for the wrong things. And it wasn't until I started speaking out after a couple of events unfolded that I started to speak out, but nobody else wanted to. They would just pack their stuff up and leave. The people in the chat room, they would leave quicker because they weren't so, invested. But nobody wanted to get in the targets. Nobody wanted to even bring it up. And that's how she would smack you down. Do
you mind if we stay until 9:30, about another 40 more minutes? You have enough time for that?
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, I don't want to rush this one. Again, we're talking about friends, our Andrew Ryan Profaci. He's the author of The War on Love, the origin story of Love Has Won and the Rise of Mother God. I strongly encourage moderators, can you please do me a favor and put that in the chat room? Get this book. It is really phenomenal. His last name is Profaci. So if we can put that, moderators, all over the social medias, that would be great. The War on Love by Andrew Ryan Profaci. Thank you very much. Thank you. It's just Tracy Ann. Fascinating book. Now, let's talk about briefly the HBO's documentary that came out, Love Has Won. So what was it like seeing that part of your life on screen?
Wow. It was, watching it actually was weird. I couldn't even watch the third episode. They cut it into 3. I was in the first episode, more towards the beginning of the group, and when it came about. But there was so much that I experienced that it felt, anybody who tried to put it in an hour and a half or 2-3 hours of, television obviously wasn't going to be able to even scratch the surface for me personally. I thought she did a good job, but for me, watching was really weird. And then watching myself, I recognized when I first saw it that I, at that time of doing the interview, still had a lot of unresolved trauma from the incident that I didn't recognize and hadn't figured out quite yet when I had done the interview.
So what did the documentary get right when it comes to your part? And to be fair, because if you had already left and you didn't necessarily know exactly what was occurring in the house, what did it get right and what did it miss? And then we're going to talk about in a moment that breaking point where you said, that's it. And we'll get to that problem. We'll get to that transition in a moment. But your part, what did the documentary get right and what did it miss?
So I think Hannah, who was the director, did a good job of keeping it in a chronological order. She shared how the group kind of was founded and kind of like an idea of how the group went on from like a 30,000-foot view, of the belief system and how things unfolded, a few events that she shared, and then, the group, how it was, evolving and what it had become, from 6, 7 people physically there to, 20, more than 24 people on a compound or 2 compounds, and half the people or more didn't even see Amy on a daily basis. It was the strangest thing to me. And I thought it was okay. But again, for me, I don't think anybody, because I hate to say Hannah didn't do a great job, but I don't think anybody in my eyes could have done a really great job, because there's just so much there for me that I wish she would have gotten into. But she kept it very, very, like I said, 30,000-foot view, and didn't get deep in the details about any of the things that I think were really influencing the group, and her in particular.
All right, so let's talk about this. You see yourself, and did it open some old wounds, and how did people respond to you when after the documentary came out? Because this was a big documentary. So did it open up old wounds to see you on this, and especially because it was traumatic? And then how did people respond to you when they saw you, for example, at the local store?
Yeah, good question. So when this came out, I wasn't able to go, even though I was in Manhattan at the time. I wasn't able to go to the grand opening that they did, because I was actually getting chemotherapy treatment at that time. I'd been diagnosed with cancer not long before the show came out, about 2 months before, not even. And I was getting treatment, and that process was extremely painful. There was a lot of suffering involved. So I was being ripped open, body, mind, and soul anyway. And then when I watched this, it was like reliving it. And, you start processing, and that's not a fun thing to do. Writing my book was the most painful thing I've ever done, because I had to sit through all of these experiences again, and I hadn't realized I didn't process any of them. So all of the emotion was raw. It was like I stepped right back into that place that I was in almost a decade ago, and I hadn't touched any of the feelings, and I had to live through them again. And the book was very cathartic, but it was very, very hard to go through, and it was very hard to watch myself on TV.
All right. So what was the first crack in your belief system that something is not right here? Did you try to challenge Amy, maybe the group? And when did you say, that's it? I can't deal with this anymore?
Yeah. Good question. And this was it. We had a team member who pretended he ran this most incredible hoax on the team, and had Amy specifically following along, thinking that these galactic beings had joined her chat room from another galaxy and were sent to help her awaken humanity and, run the team and run daily life, tell her everything, tell her what to do, and help her to, bring humanity out into the world. And it was the strangest thing. And she was all about it, because they elevated her. They called her Mother God, obviously. We had a ton of people coming into the chat room every night to interact with these beings, because the people in the chat room really believed it. And then eventually I was able to uncover that it was one person in the corner of our room who was doing this the entire time, using these computer programs to fake members, to fake messages, to fake miracles even. And he totally manipulated Amy and took advantage of her, elevated himself, and she didn't want to believe it. After I had uncovered it, I started tracking him, and I was able to catch him. And I put together the evidence, and I unveiled it to her, and she did not want to believe it. This is not somewhere she wanted to go. She did not want to have that discussion, because it proved that she was wrong, and Mother God was never wrong. So this was tough for her. And I was given an ultimatum to keep my mouth shut or leave the team. And in that moment, it was like she handed me back all of the power that she had taken from me to that point, because I instantly began to see everything clearly. And then from that point on is when I stopped being Father God and became Archangel Lucifer, because I did everything I could to tear it all apart.
Okay, so tell us about that. She's like, okay, fine. If you're not going to just keep your mouth shut or else, and you're like, okay, I'm done. So talk to us about that. How was that moment? What was that moment like when you said, okay, I'm walking out the door, and you know that when you walk out that door and that door closes, you're not coming back in. So talk to us about that and how you were able to get home, because now you have nothing. I mean, they've taken everything from you. So how did you get home? How did that work?
Yeah, so the two events are actually not intertwined.
Okay.
I was given this ultimatum to keep my mouth shut about this kid running this hoax on the team, or to leave. And I looked at her, and I looked at the Archangel Michael, who was like her captain or her lieutenant, and I told them, do what you've got to do. But I walked over to the laptop, very dramatic moment in front of the entire team watching, wondering what I'd do. Everybody knew at this point that it was a hoax, but nobody was going to say anything to our followers, hundreds of them, thousands even. And I did. I walked over to the chat room. I typed it all out. I pressed the send button. I turned around and I looked at her and I looked at Michael and I told them, you guys got to do what you got to do. But at that point, I had made a promise to myself and I was not going to negotiate on the truth anymore. And if they needed to kick me out, fine. But I wasn't going to negotiate on that.
All right. And everyone, make sure you follow my friends there. I just pinned their information on TikTok, and it's very interesting. So you said, okay, I'm done, and you walked out, and then how did you get home? Since they've taken everything from you, you have nothing left. How did you get home? Did you make arrangements?
So what I meant was she ended up not kicking me out.
Okay.
I stayed for several months, and I became, a really big problem for her every day because I started to question her and I wouldn't take the I'm God, leave it be for an answer. Kindly, not with malice, because I really wanted the answers, but I wouldn't let her go or off the hook. And eventually when you whittle everything down, you would get to that point of I'm God, just leave it be. You're in your ego. And she would go away. And I wouldn't. I would just keep asking questions. And I left a few months later. I had to end up asking them for money. Nobody got. Michael said to me, "We don't give severance packages." And I thought to myself, "Gosh, I redid the websites. You were making this before I showed up. Now the team is making 3 or 4 times the amount of money. I gave you $17,000 over the course of the 9 months I was there." And they ended up at that point. They gave me $3,000. And the new Father God gave me his car. They couldn't wait for me to leave at that point. Amy was the only person who didn't want me to go. She wanted me to stay in a relationship with her, even though I wasn't Father God, because I took good care of her and I cared about her, and she knew that. I was trying to wake up the person and show her that it's okay to be Amy. Let go of Mother God. And the other team members hated me for it, at least a few of them. And then the new Father God just wanted me gone, because I was problematic. And I eventually left, and I left in love. I hugged everybody goodbye. It wasn't a big deal. I wasn't mean or mad. She didn't think I was going to leave, and then she ended up following me.
She ended up following. So you went.
Yeah, she came across the country about a week later and left the cult behind. Completely left. And she told me the angels are guiding me to join you, and I said, well, I left because I wasn't aligned with the group and the belief system anymore. So if you're going to come to me, you're going to have to, join me, in the real world and let this stuff go. And, she just told me whatever I wanted to hear, but I gave her that second chance. And we spent about another 8 weeks together before it became clear that she was just telling me what I wanted to hear at that point. And we ended up parting ways for the last time. And we had been together about a year at that point.
Do you think that was maybe her way of saying, okay, I realize this has gotten out of control? And maybe that was maybe her way of hoping maybe that she could convince herself that she really isn't God. And do you think that was maybe her way of trying to, or do you think she was just trying to manipulate you to come back?
I think it was both, inevitably. Okay. I think it was both at that point, because I tried really hard. And even though when it came to the belief system, I mean, look, she named me Lucifer for a reason. I was a problem. But when it came to Amy and her human needs, I was there for her. Yeah. I took care of her. She was up till 7 o'clock in the morning every night, drinking heavily. And I was taking care of her in every way you could possibly imagine. And I didn't ask anything for it. I just did it and was in service. And I think she recognized the value in that. There was nobody else willing to do that job. Everybody wanted to be Father God, but nobody wanted to take care of Amy. They just wanted to take care of Mother God. And the needs were very different.
I don't understand though. Here, help us understand. Okay, so in the documentary, Amy is very verbally abusive. I mean, this is not a person that was I'm sure she had her kind moments. This is a person that was very, very abusive verbally. Now, why would people stay in that? I don't help us understand. If I walked into a house and someone started cussing me out because she wanted spaghetti instead of fettuccine or whatever it was, it's like, really?
I said chicken parm.
Yeah, it's like, really, lady? I mean, I would just say, we're done. I mean, that's ridiculous. Why did people stay and be talked to like that? Or do you think it was all brainwashing that they stayed?
Because she was God.
Oh, come on. Now, look, do you really believe they thought she was God?
Yeah, unfortunately, I do. And I think some people just wanted a place to stay, to tell you the truth. I don't know what happened. The group changed very much after me. I think they recognized that they couldn't afford to have another Andrew. And that's where the rules came in. That's where the structure came in. And that's where the access stopped to Amy.
So, Andrew, you truly believe in your heart that people thought this person who drinks at a horrible way, she curses like a sailor, she screams at people, she is explosive in her anger, she's vulgar, I'm sorry, she was vulgar, she was just nasty, she was nasty. I'm not going to be polite to a person who did what she did to a child. What she did to that child made me so angry. It's like, how dare you? You can, if you want to run around, call yourself Mother God and you have fairy wings, fine. But you do not do what she did to that child. Not only to the child, but also to animals. She was abusive.
It was so scary.
I don't understand why people would believe any of this nonsense when you have this raging lunatic running around claiming she's God. Please explain this to us so that we can understand.
That's why I asked you the question I asked a little earlier about the potential for a group of people who get together sharing this kind of belief system is to bring in a demonic influence, because the answers to these kind of questions are thin. And I don't really have answers as to why. I can say this, in 2018 on to 2021, she was not the Amy that I knew. She was not the mother God that was in 2014 or 2015. Now she was drinking from the early part of the day to the end, whereas when I was there, it was only after dinner. And only when she drank did she become this really disgusting human being, just to put it frankly. And this person, when I looked and saw who was there at that time, she had become that person all day, every day, with the abuse, with treating children like that, with just, I was shocked that they put those videos out because they were so tight about everything back in 2014 or 2015. She had enough sense about her image not to put that kind of stuff out there. I mean, look, she wasn't treating people like that or putting children in closets. We didn't have children. We didn't even have girls at the team because she didn't want that potential enmity between girls there. But it was very relaxed back then. And so it was hard and strange to explain it. When I looked back and saw what they had become and try to think of why these people accepted this. And I don't have really good answers for you, Bishop, other than to think that there is some kind of influence.
Yeah, no question. I really believe that there was a demonic influence there, because demonic influence doesn't get better until it is dealt with. I mean, it progressive, it gets worse. And many times, for example, I performed exorcisms before on 35 people, and there's almost a distortion in the face where it's almost like a serpent-like. I mean, the muscles of the face, it's so manipulative, and this illusion that it gives to try to disorient you. And so demons are quite capable of doing this. And so to me, I think this was 100%, no question, this was demonic influence. I would absolutely say it was demonic influence. Now, tell everybody, when you found out, first of all, I know what happened to Amy because I've watched the whole thing, but for those who have not, tell us, when did you find out of her passing and what led up to that, at least that you're aware of?
Yeah, so good question. I had been gone 6 years at this point. So you have to understand, when I left, or we finally split ways, I was in Florida 6 years prior. I didn't look back once. I mean, I made it a thing for me to just keep moving forward, and I did. So when I got this call, I had no idea what was going on with the team whatsoever. Suddenly my phone rings, and I was running the internet for a car dealership that I had been working at for 5 years at that point. And I get a call, and I say, hello. And the person says, hi, is this Andrew? I said, yeah, how can I help you? She says, is this the Andrew from the Love Has One group? And I wanted to hang up on her. And I thought to myself, yeah, it's me. What can I do for you? Because I thought some craziness was coming. She says, oh, this is so-and-so from Fox or CBS Denver. I just wanted to know if you had any comment on what happened with the team. I said, well, I don't know if you know, but I left a long time ago. I have no idea what's going on because I don't watch them. She said, oh, I'm so sorry. I said, I don't know what you mean. She says, oh, well, the house had been raided by the sheriff. And unfortunately, they found that Amy had passed away, and they didn't tell anybody that they had she had died, and they instead set her body up like a shrine. And she had been mummified. Her corpse was mummified and set up like a shrine in the bedroom, and she had been dead a long time. So we just wanted to know if you had any comment.
And that was some of her members that were there. This other father god she claimed as well, right?
Yeah, she had gone through several.
So, all right. So she was, I mean, you guys have to watch this. It's called Love Has Won. It's HBO documentary Love Has Won. Let's talk about now one of the most important, if not the most important aspect, the segment of this presentation. Why did you write your book, The War on Love?
Oh, wow. Because the value of the truth became so important to me, and I thought that if I didn't put it out there, nobody would. Even the HBO documentary couldn't do it, couldn't give you an idea what it was like to be there, couldn't show you the real person who Amy was. Beautiful. She was lovely, extremely intelligent, very charismatic back in 2014. I mean, she was wonderful. And then you would see it all change when she started drinking. So there were a lot of reasons where I wanted to put the truth out because I didn't think people really understood what was going on. Everything was a caricature of the truth. And there was also this sense, I was dying at the time, unfortunately, with cancer. I was 39 years old. I was just getting chemotherapy. I literally had it plugged into my veins when I wrote the first chapter. If you read it, it says I'm staring out the window of, the hospital room getting chemo pumped into my veins, and I was thinking about her. And it made me want to get it out, get my story out while I still had time. And then I started living through it. And then the more I wrote, the more I realized how important it felt for me to really get through it all.
So what was your, Judy Ann wants to know, what was your response to the media phone call?
I was in such shock that I felt nothing. I gave them a comment, very calm. I was put off. Obviously, I was shaken up, but I felt nothing compared to what I would eventually feel. They even said, oh, this is great information. Would you mind actually doing a video interview? So I went inside and actually put me on TV. And then my phone blew up after that. And for the first week or so, it felt kind of like funny, like, oh, I'm back in the spotlight again for this group. And then it took some time for it to really settle in. And like I said, it wasn't, the cancer would change anybody, right? But it wasn't until I started really suffering that I started to have a really bigger good appreciation for what she might have been going through. At the end of the day, conspiracies or belief system or not, she was still a person and she was suffering terribly. And it took a while for that to really catch up to me.
Yeah. And what was the most painful, the painful part, the hardest chapter of the book? Do you think that writing the book, was it painful? Was it healing? And what was the hardest chapter to write?
Yeah, ultimately cathartic. It was extremely painful to go through because I had processed none of it. That's what happens when you move forward and just don't look back at all. You just forget about it, right? And everything was still waiting for me. And then I had to go relive it because I wrote the book as like a chronological report on everything I witnessed and went through. I didn't know how else to do it. And then I realized that, that was also, staying, authentic and, the authenticity and the truth was important. So I wrote a chronological report on everything I saw and experienced, even my emotions. And I was brutally honest. It's a very raw book. And the hardest part about it was reliving it. The hardest chapter to write was probably the one about the quantum hoax that the teammate had created. It's the biggest chapter in the book by far. because there's so much that went into it. It's a hoax that lasted for several months. At one point, he was even getting her into the healing chamber that they had made. These galactic beings made this kid the healer of the team, and then he was getting her alone every night when she was stone cold. Actually, that's the wrong way to put it. She was totally drunk and inebriated, 2, 3 in the morning. He would do these healing sessions, and she told me that he would shake and pretend to become this father god entity, and then convince her that the only way to clear all the negative energy she was taking on for the world was through sexual intercourse. And she believed it when he would shake and pretend like Father God suddenly downloaded into his body. Or at least that's what she told me. And that was a hard chapter to write. And not just because of what I went through, it was also, the pinnacle of the pressure and the experience and everything I went to coming full circle, and to go through that all in the moment where I realized this was all delusion at best. That was tough to write. It's about 100 pages almost, that chapter.
And I agree. You had to reach back into suppressed memories to write that book, and it's reopening old wounds. Let me ask you on that question: is there anything in the book that you were nervous to reveal?
Obviously, when you step onto your first YouTube video and somebody introduces you as Father God, all of your inhibitions regarding your own self-image get melted away for good the very first time that happened. So I wasn't too worried about my self-image, because at that point, again, with the cancer and everything, if Amy, through all her lies, had taught me anything, it was the value and worth of truth. And I'm okay with truth.
How ironic. She's telling you the value of truth.
Yeah, she talked. She had to, right? Talk out of both sides of her mouth.
Right.
She had to. She didn't have a choice, because she had to keep it real enough to make people believe, and then had to be fake enough to pontificate that she was Mother God and her belief system was, truth. So it was tough. I didn't want to tell everything, and there were a couple of things I still held back, actually, that were not super important, but are really devastating to hear about.
I know no pressure, but I'm going to put some pressure. Are you wanting to talk about that, or you don't want to rip that Band-Aid off?
No, at this point, I'm okay with it. It took a while then. So Amy, obviously, I told you, after 3 days, made that overture to me. If you're going to be Father God, obviously you have to be on, the other half of her. You're in a relationship.
Sure.
I wasn't looking for it, but eventually I became somebody who cared about her very much, and I actually grew to love her. Well, one night when she was really drunk, after I'd been there 6-7 months, we had been in a relationship, she let it slip that she had been diagnosed with herpes. And she had never said a word about this. Obviously, if you're going to have a sexual partner, that's something that that's a line you just don't cross.
Right.
It's just a line you just don't cross. So for me, that was one thing that I didn't think was super integral to the storyline, so it didn't need to be in the book. But for me, that's why I use the word devastating. It was one, devastating for her being Mother God, love and light. It was also devastating for me to, experience that and be so scared.
But I think that was, in my opinion, just from an outsider looking in, I think that is important, because it just shows a pattern of her being so nonchalant about anybody else. Everybody else was just at her disposal, and then didn't even take into consideration of letting you know when she knew. And that just it shows a pattern of just being so vicious and hateful and horrible. And again, everybody else is to be used and utilized for her enjoyment. And I think it's terrible. Let me ask you this. So if somebody has a loved one, and you believe, or they believe rather, that their loved one is in a cult, since you are a survivor of that, what are the signs that people should look for, so that maybe they can say to their loved one, "Hey, look, you're in a cult, and this is why."
Yeah, I call it a weaponized awakening. And it's when she uses spiritual language, a higher truth, the ideas of ascension or God or surrender and love and destiny. uses them like tools of control. And I think that's probably the biggest red flag that none of these cults.
Yeah, but explain that, because
right.
But explain it, because love and destiny, those are, those are good things to talk about. How would she be able to weaponize that? Explain that.
Yeah, so you love is her now. She is the embodiment of love.
Okay.
So she can tell you if you're in love or not, or she can tell you if you're acting with love or not, and she overrides your own sense of like autonomous self-representation or like self-being. Everything, all definitions of who you are go through hers. Like she controls everything about what you think of yourself, and she was very, very good at it. So she controlled your self-love, your own self-worth, your own value, and all of these kinds of things.
Again, folks, for those of you just who are maybe tuning in a little bit later, we're talking to our friend Andrew Ryan Profaci. He is the author of the War on Love book. He was in the Love Has Won cult, the HBO documentary. He was one of the father gods in the documentary. I encourage you to absolutely purchase the book, The War on Love. Andrew Ryan Profaci, Profaci. I don't know, I'm butchering it every time I say it. You've talked a little bit about your cancer, so let's talk about that, because I think we need to now make this transition into the segment of you being not only a survivor of a cult, but a survivor of cancer. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, that was a tough one. I had I told you guys I was in that car accident when I was 18, and I had hurt myself pretty badly in that accident, broken my pelvis. It was shattered, actually. I had to learn to walk again. I started having, these really bad pains in my legs. It must have been September of 2022. And, I was used to pain. I wasn't going to go asking for pain medication from a doctor. I was seeing an orthopedist, but they thought that's what I was just doing, because they were taking scans or x-rays at least and didn't see anything. And so I didn't push it too hard. It was just swallowing the pain until it got so bad I couldn't stand. I mean, I had been losing sleep for weeks. And I drove myself to the ER, 2 a.m., and I nearly crawled to the front desk sweating and told her, I don't know what's wrong with me, but there's something. Help me. And they wheeled me in. They took some CT scans, came out and said, I have really, really bad news for you. I'm sorry, but you have stage 4 testicular cancer, and you have a mass in your back. You have 3 masses in your lungs, and it's metastatic, and it's bad. It's really bad. And
I know you've talked about this on your. I know you've talked about this on your platforms, so that's why. Otherwise, if you would not, I would have never asked about this. But he's talked about his experience and his journey. So tell us a little bit about your treatment and what your status is now.
Yeah, all the truth is on the table. So if the treatment was done 8 rounds of chemotherapy, 4 of which it was really 9. Half of them were high dose chemotherapy with a stem cell transplant, which is very intense chemotherapy. I've had 5 or 6 surgeries. This was, I spent months and months and months in the hospital for this. It was very, very intensive. The one blessing, I mean, there were many of them, I should say, that God had given me was that testicular cancer. If my nurse knew what she was saying, I believe she does, but I haven't looked it up because I made a promise to myself never to research cancer. I was just going to fight it and beat it. I didn't want to know my numbers because they clearly weren't going to be good with stage 4. She told me that I had the only stage 4 but still curable cancer in the world. And when I had eventually gone through everything, it was a 1.5 years of the worst life I've ever lived. And I went for my first scans, and it wasn't just like cancer in remission. It was, you don't have cancer anymore. And I'm now talking to you about almost 2.5 years since cancer free.
That is, so you're able to ring the bell, right?
Oh yeah. I rang it. Yeah.
You rang it, almost took it off the wall. I would have rang that sucker.
I was so happy to leave at that point, but yeah, it was a very, I didn't know I was cured at that point, but it was a very emotional moment. Yeah.
Hey, you know what, buddy? I really, really appreciate you, your willingness to be on the show and talking about your journey and talking about your new book. Everybody, please purchase the book, The War on Love, Andrew Ryan Profaci. And
thank you.
it's a fantastic book. I'll make a video on this on TikTok and let everybody know. But listen, I'll send you a message afterwards. And I want to thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you to everybody who listened. I hope you enjoyed it at least, and I hope some of you, find something that is meaningful for you. I don't know why else to tell this story. But that said, thank you very much for having me and for listening. It means a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, buddy. We'll have you on again.
All right.
Have a good night. Bye-bye. Well, there we go, everybody. That's our friend, Andrew Ryan Brafacci. I tell you what a story. What a story. My goodness. I mean, that alone, in my opinion, deserves a documentary. I mean, you got everything. Got a young man that almost lost his life in a terrible accident. And then this situation where he saw that sphere there by the ocean, and then these dreams of Amy, and then him leaving literally everything behind to follow her and becoming a father god in this cult. Then escaping it, and then surviving cancer. I tell you what, guys, that it is phenomenal. And then writing the book. So I really encourage you. Pick up that book, and I absolutely believe that this was demonic influence. When you have that much power and control over people, first of all, it's heresies, going around calling yourself Mother God. She was saying she was the reincarnation of everybody. She was God. And that alone, that by itself is problematic and heretical. But, it was pretty rough. If you have not read up on this case, I encourage you to do so, because we didn't even touch, I don't even think 30% of it. I could have easily had him on for 2 or 3 more hours. So I had 175 questions, and I got through maybe, thank you very much, 35 of them. So I tell you what, pretty fascinating. For those of you listening on podcasts, we say goodnight to you. I want to remind everybody, don't forget that tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're going to get together for our night prayer, as we always do. So please, hopefully you'll join us there. We would love to have you guys. I'm going to make sure to upload this on podcasts. So the podcasts are free. The music that I make is free. All that stuff you can check out. So go to bishopjameslong.com, click on the podcast link, and I'll have that uploaded a little bit later. Tonight, again, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have our night prayer. So for everybody else, remember, your value does not decrease based on someone's inability or refusal to see your worth. You are priceless. Don't let anybody tell you or convince you otherwise. Good night.